If you are a fan of Conor McGregor or Kamaru Usman, then be sure to show this by smashing the like button. Welcome back everybody to KENAN TV. In today's video, let us talk about the potential Kamaru Usman vs Conor McGregor fight. In this episode, I will be looking into why Conor McGregor could be defeating Kamaru Usman. I'll be making a similar video where I talk about Usman defeating Conor, so be sure to like and subscribe to stay notified for that video. Now with that being said, let's jump right into the video. Conor McGregor and Kamaru Usman. At first thought, a lot of people will be looking at Kamaru Usman as the typical, look, this guy is bigger than the smaller guy, he's going to be able to overpower him, and he's going to be able to beat him. Some look at him in the way as a welterweight Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now I can see that comparison, though they are completely different fighters if you were honestly going to be looking at them in terms of skill. Sure, they are both wrestlers with great cardio, and that's where pretty much the entire similarity comparison comes to an end, because a lot of people will be looking at this fight very much so on the surface and will not be giving this fight the true attention to detail that usually would be given to any other fight. So in Conor McGregor's case, when you take a look at Conor McGregor at this point of his career, being at the age of 31 I believe, he has grown into a way bigger frame. He has built up all this muscle mass, he looks in phenomenal shape at the welterweight division, as we saw against his fight with Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Now the question of can Conor McGregor compete against a way bigger welterweight will be something that we will have to wait to get answered come fight night. Now aside from that, I believe personally Conor McGregor is going to have more than enough to defeat a fighter like Usman. Now let's start with the beginning, where all these fights starts, the stand-up department. The reason as to why I believe Conor McGregor has a great chance to defeat Kamaru Usman mainly lies in the fact that aside from Kamaru Usman being a very control-heavy fighter, we can look at Conor McGregor just the same way. The main difference lies in the fact that Conor McGregor is the way better aggressive, come-forward ring general. Kamaru Usman, when he fought for example Tyron Woodley, he had pretty much the door right open and he was essentially welcomed to pressure Tyron. When looking at his fight with Colby Covington, both fighters essentially did not give one another the chance to be the ring general. They were scrapping it out in the middle of the octagon, and because they were somewhat evenly matched in the stand-up department, that presented us with a fight which was toe-to-toe, chest-to-chest, and blow for blow. Now when it comes to Conor McGregor, he is a fighter who does not really go ahead and warm up to the fight. It is 0 to 100 right away. So as soon as the bell rings, you can expect Conor McGregor to shoot forward and get that middle of the octagon. Now you may say, look, Kamaru Usman is not a small featherweight, he can surely stand his ground and press Conor back, right? Well, the difference is he's probably going to get smacked in the face if he tries that, purely based on the fact that Conor McGregor is the faster fighter, he's a smaller fighter. Usually the smaller divisions always have a higher speed average compared to the higher divisions, so Conor is going to have the speed advantage, and he has the better overall experience in striking. He is a better striker, he is a more effective striker, and I believe he has a way better chance of knocking out and cleanly hitting Kamaru Usman than Colby Covington, for example. Colby Covington, if we're going to be using him as an example, he's a volume striker. He does not throw many punches where he loads up on one big shot and hopes to knock you out. That's never the case. With Conor McGregor, that is usually the case. He will always look to knock you out as soon as possible. That is what makes him great. So in these opening moments, Kamaru Usman, he can try his best shot, but I believe on the back foot, without him being in the middle of the octagon and being the ring general, he's not going to be really hitting Conor McGregor with anything of real substance that can demand immediate respect from Conor McGregor and make Conor McGregor back up. I don't believe that. I don't see it happening, because if you take a look at the entire skill set of Kamaru Usman, it is very much so based on the aspect of him being the fighter pressuring his opponent. That really doesn't come as a surprise, because if you take a look at his entire skill set, he has a very strong wrestling background that he can utilize on almost every one of his opponents. When that is the case, being able to counter a fighter like Usman becomes pretty difficult. Now, one way to avoid it is to not get involved involved in that situation to begin with. And no fighter does it better than Conor McGregor. Yes, you may think of Colby Covington as a fighter who is very good at going forward and keep that pressure going, but in Colby's case, the danger was not that he has great striking. It was just that, okay, I have to pay attention to his striking, and before you know it, he's shooting it on the legs and he's just able to keep that up for 5 rounds. Conor McGregor, on the other hand, when Conor is approaching you, you know any lapse of judgment, any moment where you didn't pay attention will cost you greatly. Now, Conor McGregor, he is a southpaw fighter. And traditionally, southpaw fighters who are able to come forward and be aggressive fighters usually have the better understanding of the range. And going into a fight where you're fighting a bigger fighter with a longer reach who is taller than you, that is going to come as a great advantage. Because when you look at Kamaru Usman, the real range that he can set comes predominantly from the medium to long range. And in that range, I would say that his jab is not really that effective. The best effective attributes that man has really comes down to, I believe, his lead right straight and a lot of long-ranged kicks to keep the opponent at bay so they can keep stepping forward and box him in. When it comes to Conor McGregor, these two predominant weapons are going to be really working against him. Kamaru Usman by nature is a fighter who throws one punch and is pretty much done with it. Now, throwing one punch on the back foot while Conor McGregor is coming forward, that becomes a very big problem many cannot deal with. You may think to yourself, look, Kamaru Usman has the longer reach, right? He's probably going to be able to jab him. Now, the thing about the jab is that Conor McGregor is very good at coming forward at all times and making you boxed in. His ability to keep a long range and close and tighten your guard up while measuring your jab hand is very great. So because of that, I believe that the best weapon that Kamaru Usman might feel that he has to throw would be the right straight. Now, like I said, in his matchup, Conor McGregor is the faster fighter. In terms of reaction time, Conor has always been pretty splendid. So when you pair the two up, Conor McGregor will have a field day, in my opinion, pressuring a fighter like Kamaru Usman. Now, the real question lies with this. You may think, well, Kamaru Usman is the bigger fighter. He should be able to stand his ground. And that may be true. But let's just say he does stand his ground. What does he really have to offer? In terms of pure striking, I believe Conor McGregor's abilities to feint, make you throw back, and make you feel nervous is what sets him apart from the competition. Now, in the case of Kamaru Usman, when that pressure is presented, how would he really deal with it? Like I said, on the back foot, I don't really see many tools that Kamaru Usman can utilize, because when it comes to his wrestling, it is predominantly applied when he has ring generalship and when he has the opponent pinned up against the fence, because that's how he gets most of his takedowns. He doesn't shoot in with a great explosion for a double leg. That's never really the case. So if he is not being able to back Conor McGregor up close to the fence, then I believe he's not going to be shooting in for a takedown. And because of that, he's going to be tied into a kickboxing contest. As long as the fight plays out in a manner where Conor McGregor is the one coming forward and is the fighter controlling the range. Conor McGregor has great footwork, has great reaction time, so whenever Kamaru Usman would try to throw back, I can only assume that he's going to have enough space to pull back, feint, or counter, and then just re-enter that space, or even cover more ground. Now that we established pretty much every single scenario that Kamaru Usman can reply on the back foot, we are left with one thing: footwork. The best way to avoid all of this is to not get caught up with it from the beginning. In terms of footwork, Kamaru Usman is a pretty heavy-footed, flat-footed fighter because he doesn't like to bounce around and give up any ground. The more ground he gives up, the less comfortable he becomes. And against Conor McGregor, he's going to be giving up pretty much a lot of ground from the get-go, especially if he tries to come out of the fight doing that spider walk. Conor is going to just sprint forward and make him feel overwhelmed, then he's going to be pretty much frozen for a couple seconds before he realizes what to reply with on the back foot. Then it comes to a point of how can I get away from this? Like I said, in terms of footwork, I believe Kamaru Usman will not be threatening Conor McGregor with elusive footwork, lateral movement, in and out feints. He's pretty much going to be a fighter who is there. And those are the fighters that Conor McGregor has great success against. For example, Nate Diaz, Eddie Alvarez, and most recently, Donald Cowboy Cerrone. And what this lack of footwork or lack of agility means is that Conor McGregor, being the lighter fighter and being the quicker fighter, he's going to have that advantage and it's going to really overwhelm him just in terms of speed and footwork alone. Conor McGregor will be able to keep the distance, get out of the distance, and just keep being a problem for Kamaru all fight long. For Kamaru Usman to be able to deal against the Conor McGregor pressure and striking, he would need to have great head movement, which he does not have. He would have to have great footwork, agility, lateral movement, which he does not have. A fighter who did have one of these things was Khabib Nurmagomedov. When you think of head movement, you don't really think of Khabib, but he has enough head movement, enough efficiency, and tremendous footwork. His footwork is very underrated. Defensive footwork, I mean, because Conor McGregor had never a moment where he could look at Khabib Nurmagomedov when he was pressuring him and have him stand still. Khabib was always moving, always being agile, always feinting, always moving his head, and never giving a moment where Conor McGregor could settle. If you don't give Conor McGregor any moment, any room to settle, what does he have to work with? McGregor's best work happens when he has some room to work and when you're out there throwing back at him with telegraphed shots. Khabib had neither of those. He had great footwork and he had great single shot speed and he had great ring awareness. Unlike Khabib Nurmagomedov, Kamaru Usman, he does not have this experience of being pressured, having to move, get out of danger, and be agile to get your own game working. His ability to use brute force, brute strength was always what got it done for him. But in this case, against an accurate striker, great offensive fighter, a fighter with great kick selections, a fighter with a great jab control, straight shot selection, it is going to be very hard for Kamaru Usman to get out of the way. That's what I'm trying to say. And especially right now with Conor McGregor adopting a new, more strength, powerful style, which focuses a lot more on round shots, body work, Kamaru Usman is going to be facing the best offensive McGregor there has been so far. And with that, I believe the stand-up department for the majority will be controlled by Conor McGregor. The great question still lies with this though. If Conor McGregor is going to be able to defeat Usman, it will most likely come by a TKO or a knockout, right? That is very true. Now the real question lies with this. Kamaru Usman is a very big welterweight. Can he absorb all of Conor McGregor's shots? And can he endure a lot of damage like Nate Diaz did and then come forward and overwhelm Conor McGregor to a point where he can back him up against the fence and take him down? In my opinion, Conor McGregor is the most dangerous striker Usman will face. Tyron Woodley has a big punch, sure, but his greatest weakness was the greatest strength of Kamaru Usman, which was the fact that Tyron Woodley welcomes fighters to pressure him. But if you're going to be welcoming a fighter who is physically strong, long, and rangier than you, and who has a great high output, and who will never let you have a moment where you can time a single shot because he pairs up a lot of shots on the front foot, then you're pretty much neutralized. And oh, did you forget that he has great wrestling too? Well, guess what? Now you're on the floor. And when you take a look at Colby Covington, like I said, a lot of volume, but no real significance. Though Colby Covington was able to hit him a couple times, no serious damage was, in my opinion, really applied to Kamaru Usman. Yeah, sure, there were a few moments where he was able to put him off balance here and there, but never did he really rock him, stun him, and make him feel hurt, wobbled, or things of that nature. Conor McGregor can do those things on the front foot while taking away the best part of Usman's game. And with that, we're going to be having a Kamaru Usman who's going to be pretty much so stripped away from all the skills that he likes to utilize against most of his opponents. And like I said, with the ability that Conor McGregor has in terms of being able to counter, set up the opponents, and time incoming attacks is just going to be something he will be unfamiliar with. And given the fact that Conor McGregor will have the speed advantage, it will be very hard for Conor McGregor to mess up anything really. And because of that, the question now becomes how much can he hit Kamaru Usman? I believe he will be able to hit Kamaru Usman with a lot of jabs, a lot of teep kicks, and a lot of pullback, slip, counter, left hand straights. I see that punch landing consistently and throughout the fight because the ability that Conor McGregor has to take away your jab is going to be more than present in this fight, mainly because of the fact that Kamaru Usman's movement will not be troubling Conor McGregor's ability to read the distance because he's not going to be bouncing around, he's not going to be repositioning all the time. So Conor is going to be having that jab right in the palm of his hand throughout the majority of the fight. So once that is taken away, we will pretty much see what happened with Eddie Alvarez, and he will just feel inclined to throw the right hand straight anyway. Now that we brought up the fact that Kamaru likes to switch stances, let's talk about that in this matchup. I believe that is something that he can use against Conor McGregor, which can give Conor McGregor a harder time. And that is, in my opinion, one way for Kamaru Usman to find success against Conor McGregor. Because Conor is going to have a field day when the stances are mirrored. Luckily for Usman, when he switches these stances, he can give a different look. And like he did against Colby Covington when he switched stances, that was when you saw Covington really start hitting Usman because he was in range to get hit with the jab. I believe the same will be happening to him when he starts switching his stances. But this time around, will Conor McGregor be able to control him as soon as he starts switching from one stance to the other? I will be discussing that more in detail when I make my Why Kamaru Usman Can Defeat Conor McGregor video. But to come back to Conor McGregor dealing with this, I believe Conor McGregor will have more than enough to be able to deal with a switcher, because this is the first time I believe believe he has fought somebody like this. I believe the most success he will have is in the mirrored stance. As soon as Usman switches, he will start losing a lot of his significant strikes that he can land. But I believe that his jab and his lead-in uppercut will be punches that will keep forcing the distance to be there. His jumping knees, head kicks still remain there to begin with. So in terms of being able to land that flush left hand straight, though it can still happen, now we have a lot more room to block when you are Kamaru Usman, because then you can start closing the guard a little bit more and use your shoulder to slip incoming straight punches. So the line of the punch when Conor McGregor throws a straight punch against a mirrored stance opponent is open. As soon as he flips his stance as well, then that becomes a little more hard to penetrate the guard with. That was what we saw against Dustin Poirier. The jab straight was a punch that kept getting blocked on the shoulder, on the forearm, on the glove by Dustin Poirier. So Conor McGregor had to double his jabs up and come in with a lot more round punches. And so he did. He was able to get through the guard like that. So assuming that when Kamaru Usman does it, we can expect the left straight to kind of go away, but we cannot expect the threat of Conor McGregor to fade away, because he still is there. Though his signature punch may not be there, other shots will still be able to hurt him and crack him, just like we saw against Dustin Poirier. And with some improvements that he has made since his fight with Dustin Poirier, like we saw against Nate Diaz, Conor has adopted a lot more new tricks. The leg kicks, the pull counter. When Conor is fighting a orthodox fighter and where the stances are mirrored, the normal pull counter where you just lean back and then come back with your own straight is pretty much hard to pull off because the distance is just different. It's farther away. So when Kamaru Usman switches to southpaw himself and throws a jab, you can expect Conor McGregor to use that against Kamaru Usman, in the sense of as soon as Kamaru Usman extends his jab, he's leaving his chin exposed, and Conor has a nice line of trajectory that he can use to counter right on the chin. And these are counters that are, in my opinion, the most devastating. But I believe Usman's greatest strength is just his ability to keep throwing that straight punch in either stance. So when he switches to southpaw, I don't expect him to throw many jabs, so he will just throw straights, right? So slipping the jab is going to become less frequent, but I won't be counting it out because it will still be there. If Usman throws a jab from southpaw, I think Conor can pull back and counter. If he throws a jab from the orthodox stance, I think Conor can just step back to get out of range, and then from there step back into range to land the left straight. But that is a longer combination and a longer chain of movements that is not as quick and snappy as a pullback counter like the one we saw against Nate Diaz all the time. Now, one weapon that Conor McGregor can use is possibly the leg kicks, though I believe that may be a difficult technique to pull off because Conor McGregor, the way he throws it, is not super fast. He kind of really steps into it. A lot of damage is really going to be put into them, and maybe that is going to be leaving him stationary, and that is something that Kamaru Usman can use against him, possibly catch the leg kick and then drive him to the mat. We won't really know until we see that fight happening and when we see Kamaru Usman switching stances. But aside from that, the ability Conor has to keep you pressured, even when you're moving left to right, coming forward and back, Conor is always going to be able to cut the ring off and make you feel boxed in. And because of that, Conor McGregor will have, in my opinion, a serious advantage in the stand-up department. Now, there are a few questions that Kamaru Usman can pose against Conor McGregor, like for example, the power, the physicality, the ability to use his own kicks to keep distance. I'll be diving into those topics in the near future, trust me on that. But in this video, we are only focusing on how Conor can win. So now let us talk about the part we all really want to know, the grappling department. When it comes to the grappling department, like I said, the best success Kamaru Usman has predominantly comes when he is in control of the ring. And when that happens, he's a very, very difficult fighter to deal with. Not even Conor McGregor, who's going to be having the speed advantage in terms of hand speed and footwork, will be really able to get out of the way. Because a fighter like Usman and a fighter like Conor McGregor, as soon as they are getting backed up, will be really starting to lose. And the same can be applied for Conor McGregor. So if Conor McGregor is going to get taken down, it will most likely happen against the fence. But I believe when Conor McGregor is winning these exchanges and still is on the front foot and coming forward, I don't see a way Kamaru Usman will be able to shoot in and get a successful takedown. Conor is very good. He has very great takedown defense, especially on the front foot. Even Khabib Nurmagomedov was not able to take him down when he was on the front foot. Eddie Alvarez was not able to get it, mainly because of the fact that it comes as telegraphed. Because Conor can see it coming when he's on the front foot. He can see it coming when he's pressuring you, and he can get it out of you. He can bait that out of you. So it's not really so much so that the takedown itself has an element of surprise to it. No, that is not the case, because Conor really just essentially gets it out of you. So it is easier for him to stuff it and deny it from the get-go. He doesn't even get tangled up with trying to break your grip, because he just snaps back, boom boom, counter. That's it, right? So I believe that is a way Conor can have the ability to deal against Usman's wrestling, not being able to get involved with it from the beginning. But like I said, it all comes down to control. The moment control is being lost by either fighter is the moment they start to lose. And Conor McGregor, I believe he has a great 2 rounds, 3 rounds in him. If he's not able to get a fighter like Usman out of there, then Usman will be coming forward, standing his ground and smothering Conor McGregor. And as soon as that happens, then Conor is in serious trouble. But we'll be saving that for the next video. Coming back to why Conor McGregor can win this fight, it all comes down to the fact that he has to be in control. And when Conor McGregor is in control, I believe he can pace himself, he can control the stamina, he can make the other guy work, he can make the other guy fatigue by going to the body, teep kicks, body hooks, things of that nature. Conor is a legit boss when it comes to that. People have to really understand it. As soon as that gets overlooked, you're essentially overlooking 80% of the fight. And so with that, I believe I answered the stamina question as well. If Conor McGregor can remain in control, I think he can control the stamina and thus possibly go 5 rounds once again. Now, will he? And will he be able to knock out Kamaru Usman? Only time will tell. One thing I do know is this: if Conor McGregor can connect on various power shots, beautiful counters, the possibility he has to finish a fighter like Usman is very realistic, so don't count it out. However, as I always like to say, in the end, only time will tell what will truly happen. Because for now, this was why Conor McGregor could defeat Kamaru Usman. Leave in the comment section down below who you think will be winning in this potential matchup. As always, I have been Kenan from Kenan KTV, signing off. Later.